Hello, my name is Rebecca Fishman Lipsey. My friends call me RFL. And I am so excited for the next 30 minutes to share this stage with this powerhouse lineup of women leaders in tech. But can we just take a moment to honor the fact that at one of the biggest tech conferences in the world, they dedicate an entire day of programming to women in technology and the urgency to create inclusivity in this space. We love you. Thank you for doing this. 30 minutes is going to fly. So I'm hoping to start with a question for each of you where you can share a bit about your experience and your journey, and then to open it up for conversation. I'm hoping we can start with Kristin. Kristin, you have launched and led businesses in several industries at this point. I know this is a huge issue of importance to you. You helped organize this panel. Thank you. For the hundreds of people in this room, this is not a new topic. We know that there are not enough women in tech. Why must we keep talking about it?
It's super important to me having women involved in engineering. I run a telecommunications company, and if it weren't for researchers and technologists in that space, I wouldn't have a company today. One of the first female engineers, Dr. Shirley Jackson, actually was the inventor, and her research helped develop caller ID, fax machines, and fiber optics, which is the entire basis of our company. So I think it's super critical. Hedy Lamarr, another female engineer, developed the technology behind Wi-Fi. Another woman developed a closed captioning TV, which became security systems. So just speaking from a personal basis, I actually wouldn't be running a company today if it weren't for women engineers. So women make up 1/2 of the population, and if you take 1/2 of the good ideas off the table, you're just going to be losing so much brain power and talent. And I think in the coming years, there's 4 times the amount of tech jobs than other industries, and so we really need to get women involved in technology so that we can fix the most challenging problems that are facing our country today. So
Yes.
It's just absolutely critical.
Amen. And I know we're going to get into that at other levels as we get into this discussion. Carmen, you're also in the communications space, and you, if I read it right, you helped bring FPL FiberNet from nothing to $1.5 billion at sale. Was that right? It's an incredible accomplishment. Would love to hear how you, I think, if I'm right, your background was not in the tech space. How did you come from not being in a tech background to running a $1.5 billion tech company?
So thank you, Rebecca. And first of all, I just want to compliment Melissa for putting on this tremendous event. And I'm delighted to be here this morning. I also love the fact that, I'm going to answer your question, but I love the fact that she had all her kids with her.
Yes.
Which 20 years ago, us women would never have thought about having all our kids at an event like this, or even at work or whatever, right? So we've really come a long way, even though we're not there yet and far from it. But to answer your question, I was an accountant. I probably wasn't a very good accountant, and so and so they asked me to run this little company, which in 2004 nobody really knew what to do with. Remember, 2004 was before smartphones. Some of us had Blackberries, and we had the flip phones. So, but we had a ton of fiber, and we just kept looking ahead and realizing that at some point, we were going to be doing something with that fiber. So focused on wireless carriers, built our business to provide services to the wireless carriers, built that network, and then realized that the bandwidth demand was growing so much that we really needed to expand to provide services to others. But for me, it was really just doing something that wasn't accounting, and then realizing that I could learn just by asking a ton of silly questions of the engineers. And the engineers would look at me like, this is a snugglehead, asking all these silly questions. But sometimes I would ask a question that would make them think. And I guess I was overly confident that it didn't matter, the questions that I was asking, because I knew that once I learned it, I knew what to do with it. So I wasn't afraid. And I think that's a big thing that we have to instill in our daughters and our women in general. Just don't be afraid to ask questions and to take the risk and to grab onto that opportunity if you're given the opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
And I did.
Don't be afraid. And such an inspiration. I know there's many people who are here who are in industry, but many others who are interested and not sure if they could lead in this space. So to hear about your story in that way, I think gives a lot of inspiration to all of us. And speaking of inspiration, so Marina, you run Code Art. You help run Code Art. It's a program that's working to help include and inspire girls at a young age to get involved. I've heard you talk about the urgency to create a culture of coding. What is a culture of coding and why does it matter for young girls?
Thanks, Rebecca. That's an excellent question. So culture of coding, what we talk about that, what we mean when we talk about that is we have to change the image of what people think coding is like. Right now, if you ask a girl what she thinks a coder is, she would, by almost 90% of the time, if not more, would say, well, I think it's a boy and he's alone in a room and he's doing this. And that's what we're trying to get rid of. First of all, that's a false narrative, right? Right now, there's 18% of women graduating with computer science degrees, which is a terrible number. I mean, that's less than 1 in 5 girls. And people would think, oh, well, girls are just not interested and that's why they're not going into computer science, but that's absolutely not true. In 1984, we had 40% of computer science graduates that are women. And suddenly that's dropped off by a huge amount. So people would say, why is that? Well, in 1984, it was about the time when personal computers became affordable. And when they started becoming, when marketing was going on to market these computers, they were marketed to boys and to men. And so we have this overwhelming image of, you know, and you think about the movies like War Games and Hackers, and it's all like these boys in hoodies causing havoc, right? And so girls think, well, it's antisocial, it's not collaborative, it's probably too computational, and I'm not good in math, all of which is just so wrong. So when we talk about changing the culture, changing the idea of what programming is, we want to make sure that girls know that it could be very collaborative, it could be very creative. It could be computational if you wanted to, but it doesn't need to be, right? So as Kristin said, as Carmen said, you can't take half of the population and take away half of their ideas and take them off the table. You have to have inclusivity. You have to have everyone's ideas participate. You can't have just a few people building tools that all of us use, right? You need to have everyone's input. And so what we're trying to do with Code Art is start at the youngest levels. We aim at middle school girls, and we want to show them that coding can be collaborative, it can be very creative. So we teach coding with art, and we do it in a group environment, in a collaborative environment, to young girls to start at the bottom levels to say, look, all those stereotypes, they're just not true. Let's start at the bottom. Let's start at the very beginning and show you that that's not true. Come join us. Come be a coder with us. Do it together.
So very actively fighting the narrative of the hoodie.
Very actively.
That this is a male space. You can be creative here. You can be collaborative here. This is for you. Already at the beginning of your educational journey. I love it. Rosie, so you're fierce. You're running IT for some of the most complex departments in Miami-Dade County, one of the largest counties in the country. I think solid waste, and transportation, soon to be aviation probably. I hope I didn't still something that wasn't to be. We'll see. Very exciting work, very complicated space. And you got into this work in the 80s, well before, and it sounds like in the 80s, there's a slightly higher percentage of women were going into this space, but still not a particularly welcoming space for women. And you were in here in kind of the era of zeros and ones and DOS and the computer paper with the circles on the sides. How did you know already back then, before technology was really encompassing every industry, that this was the space for you?
Well, so I was never the typical girl growing up. I always like to challenge myself and do different things, but my parents migrated here from Cuba with nothing. So what I always love to do is basically connect things. So really my technological experience started like connecting ceiling fans. Literally, I would—
Ceiling fans.
Ceiling fans. I would be helping my mom and my dad sometimes, get the ceiling fans up and, connect wires. And of course, that wasn't the typical
right.
girly
young
thing
girl
to
fixing
do,
fans.
So that set the stage for my analytical type of experience. As I grew, I went to school and always loved numbers. And actually, early on, it really wasn't something that the girls would probably, you would get teased, oh, that's not a girl type of stuff, But I always challenged myself to continue going amongst the guys, connecting and challenging myself to kind of beat them. I was always very competitive in that nature. As I worked myself through school, I was going to be an accountant. I really was going to go into finance and accountant. I always loved numbers. And I took my first computer class in Miami-Dade. And, back then, of course, it was the keypad, the key punch. Yeah, I don't even know why I liked it, because basically, you had to, it was not as nice as now, actually. But when I took the class, I said, this is it. This is where I think I can actually put the two together. So as I continued with my career there, I actually didn't take computer science, because I think it's like what you say, the girls think they have to take a computer science. So in FIU then, they had this management information system, which would say business management, but also encompassing computers. And I found it to be fascinating because it had a whole set of the math that I liked. It also had the ability to challenge my mind into analytic and the coding. So then I started in entry level at ITD. I actually applied from the newspaper, so it wasn't anything that really nobody helped me or anything like that. So I applied and started in the coding factor, and little by little I moved myself to the different areas. And what I would say to the girls is that you just have to keep moving. I mean, it was a man's type of world, right? And you get challenged. You can't. Sometimes, you weren't part of a team, or maybe they're giving you, saying, this is not for you. But each stage of the game that gets you to the next level, you learn whether the leaders at that point may not want to embrace you. That's still a learning, right? What you want to be, what you don't want to be. Necessarily didn't have necessarily a mentor in that particular space, but just the perseverance of moving forward, of learning. It is a field that continues to allow us to, innovate in many different aspects, especially what's happening now with the fourth industrial revolution and everything that's going on. I mean, technology is everywhere. It's not just in the, in every part of our society, and how we live and how we work and how we play, and with social media. So for me, I try to employ in my career in the county as how I would do it for how I live.
Yeah.
And just continue persevering in a world that, sometimes you have the challenges, but just keep on going. And
totally. And you must keep fresh. The industry is going to continue to evolve, and if you're going to stay ahead of it, you need to be moving.
You gotta love
ahead.
it, because for me, I read a lot, and you say, how do you stay current with something? So, but since you love it, you're always trying to figure out how to get something done with my colleagues, the people who work for me, the techies, It's hard to keep up with everything, but reading and immersing yourself in that technology has been my experience of how I can succeed. And girls can do that. It's not an ability issue. It's a matter of saying, I can do this, and challenge myself too.
You mentioned that earlier. So let's chat. We are having a moment of reckoning of sorts in this country right now. We're having a Me Too moment, and we are well aware that there are some industries that are more tough than others for women. And this is an industry that has historically been especially tough for us. And here we are on a stage encouraging more women to go into a space that we know is challenging for them. And so I ask all of you, why must we have more women in this space, and how do we help women to change the environment that we are encouraging them to go into?
I think people need to understand that having women involved in business is not charity. Women run businesses, and diverse gender businesses produce better economic outcomes. The Kauffman Foundation and other research has shown that women-run businesses like the one Carmen run produce 35 to 50% more return on investment.
Yes,
so it's not just charity. It's not just public good to get women more involved. It's actually economically good for businesses, and I think that's one of the messages that really needs to be reinforced.
Yes.
Yeah, I think trying to close that gap that we talked about before with the number of women getting the degrees but yet not being successful or not being part of the industry is critically important. I think having the ideas, and women do think about things very differently than men, right? I mean, we have a lot of common themes, but we bring different perspectives, so it's really important. And I think as we start looking at the future generations or the ladies that are now starting out, graduated from college, we need to make sure that the environment that they're working in is conducive to them being creative and to them participating. And it's only going to happen by intentionally forcing that. And Kristin, I don't know if you agree with me. Intentionally forcing, not forcing, but encouraging and pushing the younger women to come in and to take a chance. And the other side of it, I always think about, is the man's perspective and the way that, I apologize to all the men in the audience, but the way that men think sometimes. And I'll share with you an example of, I'm not even going to say who it was. I had a guy that was working for me, and he had a female staff member that was a critically important staff member. And he comes to me and he says, you know, I just don't get it. She has to leave at 6 o'clock to pick up her kids. And I look at him and I said, that's tough. You know, I mean, that's really tough. I get it, because you're here. He's like, that's the time that I can meet with everybody and you know, keep working. And I said, well, can you call her at 8 o'clock? Is she back online at 8 or 9 and you know, when there's a critical project? Oh yeah, absolutely, but you know, I'm like, maybe you should try that. Maybe it's okay, right? So it's working through those issues where, yes, women will take off to have babies, and it's okay because most of the time they're gonna come right back. And facilitating the environment in which they're working in, whether it's a flex time or whether it's acknowledging that they have to go pick up a kid and they're going to get back online, you know, as real as that is. So
Yes.
being supportive of that is, I think, critically important.
I think what you're getting at as well is it's not just about getting women to be willing to go into the industry. So what kind of environment do we need to create
Absolutely.
so that women will thrive and succeed and lead effectively in this space? Because we know that we need the women leading in this space because of what they bring to the business. And you know, for me as a consumer of technology, I don't want everything that I purchase to be made by a big man body who thinks and is creating things that relate to the way that he engages with the materials. I want someone who is designing things for me, and that's why women were creating the refrigerator, and you had a whole list of technologies that were created by a woman who understood the dishwasher, things that back in the time was a struggle that I was having as a woman, was who was going to create that technology for me. And now in this era, who is creating the things that then I will use? And I want women populating and leading in that space, but it's not just about getting them to be willing to take the classes. It's once they're in, how do we make sure they succeed? I know several of you are doing things. I mean, you're running an extremely large team. I imagine it matters quite a bit that you as the leader are a woman to make sure that there are more women in your company. So I'm curious, did you get to run the numbers at all? What percentage of your team is female? What does it look like
in our organization right now, 30% of the
30%
of the are
so slightly higher than
Round of
not
applause
good
for
enough
that. That's amazing.
we do pretty good at Miami-Dade. Right?
Yeah, no, you do. And what do you all think? I mean, for you first, but I'm curious for others. Clearly, you're succeeding in this space and creating a diverse and inclusive environment. What are the strategies that you are using, not just to get women in the door? And I'm curious about that as well, but to get them to stay and to succeed.
Well, in our organization, we have, you know, like Carmen said, a lot of flex time. And in my area, you know, I cultivate that flexibility because we work 24/7. So
Yep.
many times is, you know, you're working after hours and you know, and weekends. So the fact is that the family is first, because you have to have a good family life in order to be able to bring back. Like I said, it's about living this whole process. So, you know, caring for the folks. I mean, the gender to me is not so much. You know, you have to work hard. You have to work hard. You know, if I would say something to the ladies is, you know, not worried so much about, you know, what all this is going on. Work hard, and you know, you get your credibility by that work, and each moment and each stage that you have to work for that, right? Deliver, and you will show that you have the ability to make that happen. If we focus on the working hard, and that gender will go away, right? I mean, I tell you from my own experience, for sure, you know, when you first start somewhere, you know, if you're a good-looking girl, you know, things, you know, oh, what can she bring to the table? Oh my God, you know.
You got to prove it.
We'll put her over here,
to the
maybe
table.
bring some coffee or something. You know what I'm saying? But for me, it's okay. I just say, oh, no problem. But I try to focus on the job at hand. Deliver, work hard, participate, forget about all that other noise. And our organization, I think we do, you know, working under our CIO Angel, he provides, you know, he says families first. We bring in folks that are that are well-rounded. I think that are going to be able to provide the stuff. And I take and I look at the skill sets, and sometimes people are a little more introvert. Some of those are more external. So I try to place them in those places where they can do their best, and do that. Some people don't like to interact with, the users. They might do the coding. Some people want to be more outside. I think by doing that, it allows them to feel that they can actually be a contributor to the organization, as well as then still have their family life. They come back at night. Some of the ones that were more flexible are the ones that work harder.
Yeah.
They work harder to deliver that.
So
right?
flexibility, and especially with technology, there's no reason why you need to be in a physical space to do the work. We should be able to leverage the intelligence that we have to enable people to be successful where they are. Do you guys have any other strategies that you use in your companies to make it more inclusive for women?
I think re-internships are an important part. 56 or 60% of women in technology leave to start families, and because of the pace of technological innovation, a lot of them lose their skills.
Lose their skills 2
or 3 years later. So there's a foundation that has a re-internship program so that women, after they're done raising a family or their kids are in school, can go back, get refreshed on skills, not starting out at a beginning level, but starting out as a middle management position. And that provides the gateway to having women in leadership.
Yes.
Because we're taking so many critical women out at a key point in their career when they could, be grooming themselves for executive leadership positions.
Yes, you're really speaking to me. My mother in the 80s was an original coder as well. She graduated top of her class, was valedictorian, was a coder at the beginning of it was the end of the 70s, early 80s. And then went and had babies, and by the time she got back, she had lost, was no longer at the top of the field, and she ended up having to switch industries. I don't think they had that practice yet of re-entry. Very, very smart. Anything on your end that you're doing to make sure that there's success for women in your
some of the
industry?
things that we did along the years was encourage rotational programs, so that somebody that really wanted to try the Network Operations Center or wanted to try, as long as they had the background and some of the skill sets, but were afraid because weren't sure if it was going to work out, and gave them a safety net to be able to come back into the position.
The ability to play and see and explore.
And it also allows the head of those groups to test that person out and to see that, yeah, she really can do the job. So,
yes. This is similar to what you shared earlier. You are smart, you are capable, try on something new and different, and you will see what you can contribute in that space.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
It helps to management that doesn't have exposure to that person all of a sudden get to know somebody different. And that's how we pushed a lot of the diversity in some of the groups that didn't have any diversity whatsoever, of any gender diversity.
Got it.
So that was interesting.
We only have a couple minutes left. I'm curious, for this group of people here who clearly care about this issue, if they could do one thing to push the needle in this space and make it more inclusive, especially for women, what would you encourage them to do?
I think what Marina is doing is so critical. You have to get to young girls. You have to show them that technology is a career that they can aspire to. You have to provide mentors for women and role models. If you never have seen a woman in technology or in that career, you can't envision yourself being there. So I think more of what you're doing is absolutely key to getting more women involved.
I would just say changing the perception, and that probably starts with mentorship. I would think one of the most critical aspects of successful careers, whether women or men, but mostly for women, is getting that great mentor, formally or informally, I think makes a big difference. So.
I think personally for our organization, because we deal with younger kids, what is really fundamental is to get the moms on board. The moms are the ultimate gatekeepers of a child's time. I mean, the dads as well, but really the moms make a lot of the decisions. And the moms have to be convinced that this is an after-school activity that is fundamentally important. They're like up to their eyeballs in soccer and gymnastics and piano and whatever. But this is something that is so, so, so important. And if the mother doesn't believe it, it's not going to be on the radar, and then it's going to go out the window. So they have to understand, as Kristin mentioned, there's going to be 1 million jobs in technology available in 2020. We as a country are not producing enough computer science graduates to fill those jobs. So if the proportions stay the way they are, those jobs are going to go unfilled. And that's terrible because they're actually some of the highest paying jobs across industries. Tech is where it's at. You get the highest paying jobs coming out of college, coming out of graduate school. I mean, it's a no-brainer. It's not, it's like you said, we're not doing this because it's a nice thing to do. It's fundamentally important for the economy. It's fundamentally important for the country. And the moms have to be involved. They have to be the ones that say, okay, this is important for my child. I'm going to make sure that the child gets involved in technology and coding.
And how about you, Rosie?
So I think that one important thing in our organization that I think helps folks is, free internship. If I would say something to girls, just come in and try it. Come in and try it. Many times that leads up to a job. Many times that really does open your eyes to the different areas of technology, because it's not only coding. I mean, obviously in the network you have cybersecurity, you have a whole premise of types of jobs that are very creative. Even in the web, now you have the digital marketing world that you have to have both, right? So, but free internships, I think, will allow the women to come in and do these types of work that would end up in the pay, and they could actually do the work and see, not necessarily do it through school, but they'll be able to, work and, provide something, while they're learning. And I think that's something that I would recommend.
Awesome. And now all of you are trailblazers in this space. Would love for you to share with people here something that you're most proud of in your space. I know there's some really interesting technology you all are unloading for our community, so maybe you can start us off and share something that really makes you proud.
We're doing a lot in the transportation space. I think with the we're trying to unify the highway and the transit, and right now we're actually implementing very interesting projects with the adaptive signal technology, which is going to set the stage for the autonomous vehicles, and basically trying to have the signals adapt to the traffic flow and basically interface with the wayside. Of course, that also installing a communication infrastructure that would allow that to happen. We're also moving in the transportation space on doing mobile payment.
Mobile payment?
Mobile payment.
Yes,
open,
we need this.
Open that would allow you to pay for multiple segments of with Samsung Pay, open payment, pay for the train, pay for buses. You can also pay for Uber with the same app. Hopefully that will come soon, towards the end of the year.
Yes.
In the solid waste space, we're trying to also implement technology to basically know where your bulky pickup is. If you order something, you can actually do it through the mobile device and see where your garbage truck is. And then if you don't want to put garbage out, the technology to say, well, is it full? To pick up on that, maybe on demand, and improve some of that type of service.
Very cool.
So these are some of the things going on, and
love it. Yes, and led by a woman. How about you? What are you most proud of over there?
I would say my organization is very new. We've only been around for a couple of years, and the amount that we've accomplished and the amount of converts, I would say, that we've brought over to the dark
from
side.
the gospel.
Yes, exactly. Has been huge. And we started actually as an event called Code Art Miami 2 years ago, and we have our 3rd annual Code Art Miami event is coming up, and I encourage everyone here to come. Bring your daughter, your niece, your cousin, your nephew, whatever. Bring everyone. Everyone's welcome, but what it is a coding art competition for girls, where when everyone else comes and they see all the beautiful art that was created with code by local girls, it's so important for other girls to see other girls are doing this. It's not just me thinking about this. This is a thing. This is a real thing that's happening. You just need other girls to see that it's going on, and it'll inspire them, it'll encourage them, bring more people in the door, and it'll tell the parents that this is a thing.
When's the event?
It is on May 20th. It is at the UM Alumni Center. Yeah, it's really soon. And if you have a girl in your life that is already coding and wants to participate in the competition, there's still time to do that. We're still taking submissions for another week or 2.
That's awesome.
And if you want more details, we've got a booth. Come talk to me. We're in 1239.
Awesome.
So your question was, what are we
most proud of?
Okay, I'm going to give you 2 answers. I think the number one thing that I'm most proud of are my 3 kids.
Yes.
They're 3 amazing kids. They're now adults, and I will be a grandmother very soon, so I'm very proud of that.
Yes.
The second thing that I'm most proud of is really the company that we built. It wasn't I built, but the team that helped me build that company. A lot of them are in the audience today. But really what I was most proud of is how our customers would rate us. So we were rated #1 in customer service, service delivery, network reliability for many years in a row, and really out in the nation out of just customer feedback. And that was the most rewarding thing for me. We sold the company, and that was a kind of bittersweet experience, but the reward comes in also seeing the people that grew up along the way that we would hire right out of college, and all of a sudden they were in the management team, and they were just really, really successful. So that's my most proudest moment.
Love it.
2017 and 18 has been great for my company, and it's hard to pick one thing, but if I was to say, it'd be the fact that we were rated the fastest internet service provider in the United States, which makes Miami the fastest city in the United States, and that was probably a great accomplishment for us and our team.
I love it. Well, you all, we are out of time. It has been such an honor to share this stage with you and to highlight the work that's being led in technology by women, to talk about inclusivity. And if I could leave us just with one closing thought, it would be, it is an incredible honor that eMerge has chosen to spend an entire day focused on inclusivity for women, and that with our power as women in this space, I think it's really important for us to think about all ways that this industry needs to be more and more diverse, and for us to make it inclusive so that all people see themselves as people who belong here and can be successful here and can lead here. So thank you all so much.